In my last video, I talked a little bit about while some of the earliest eyewitnesses, people who claimed that Jesus had risen from his grave, certainly had motivation to make that claim. They had already been his followers, for instance. Someone like the Apostle Paul, whose life, as it's known to us, began as a man named Saul, an active opponent of Jesus' followers. Saul's conversion to Christianity cannot really be explained by the same psychological factors that would explain the devotion of Jesus' previous followers. Those who followed Jesus during his ministry certainly had reason to want to promulgate the story that he had risen from the grave. Why would the Apostle Paul have wanted to share the same story? I want to talk a little bit in the next couple of videos about the things that Paul wrote and did during his ministry. But before I do that, I want to zoom out for today's video and talk to you a little bit about a misconception that I've definitely heard out there about the texts of the Bible, the New Testament in particular. The idea that what we have in our English Bibles, if I sit down and open up a Bible, what I have is a translation of a translation of a translation of a translation. I've heard people say before that they understand the Bible to be this thing that was, written in languages that existed 2,000 years ago, and it's been translated, and it's been translated, and it's been translated, and now we have it in English, and how can we even possibly know if that's what it originally said? Did Paul even make the claims that I, as a Christian, am going to say that he did? This is a misconception. I have right here for you my own Greek New Testament. This is what the original writers of the Bible wrote. In a later video, I'll talk about issues that we call textual, critical issues, transmission of the text issues. But here's what I want to point out to you. When you read an English Bible, the Bible that we use here for worship regularly at Grace of God, for instance, is the New International Version. You are reading something that was translated directly from the Greek text to English. There have historically been Bibles that were translations of translations. You can pick up something, for instance, still today called the English Vulgate. That's a translation into English of the translation into Latin of the Bible. The Bible was originally written in, as I mentioned in the New Testament, Greek. In the Old Testament, would have been Hebrew, with small portions in Aramaic. The Vulgate was a translation of both the Hebrew Old Testament and the Greek New Testament into Latin, and you can buy translations of the Vulgate itself into English because it was such an influential Bible. But the majority of English Bibles that you encounter today, and in fact Bibles in almost any language that you encounter today, they will be translations from the text itself, not a translation of a translation. And to be clear, simply because this language was being spoken 2,000 years ago does not mean that it was ever lost. Our church network, for instance, the Wisconsin Synod of Lutheran Churches, trains its clergy in the original languages so that we can read these 2,000-year-old documents, and I can affirm for you what you read in the Bible is faithfully, accurately an English translation of the original writings. The Bible that you read is not a translation of a translation of a translation of a translation. It is a translation, period, of the original texts. With that misconception cleared up, the subject of Paul's own writings and the things that he claims in those writings is going to be the topic for another video. Thanks for watching.